What funny family story do you now realize was actually kinda messed up? So my family had this tradition we called the doorbell game that I literally thought was the most fun thing as a kid. And we'd talk about it at family gatherings like it was this hilarious shared experience LMAO. It was only years later that I realized how fucked up it actually was. Basically, whenever the doorbell would ring unexpectedly, my mom Marilyn would yell, "Doorbell game," at the top of her lungs and we'd all have to hide. Like, drop everything immediately. We'd turn off all the lights, the TV, everything electronic. My brother Santiago and I thought it was the coolest thing ever because we got to hide in all these weird spots. Under beds and closets, behind shower curtains, wherever. Mom would give extra points for creativity and how quiet we could be. The rules were super strict though. No peeking, no giggling, which was literally the hardest part for me as a 7-year-old LOL. And absolutely no sounds until Mom gave the all-clear signal, which was her whistling the first few notes of Twinkle Twinkle Little Star. Sometimes we'd be hiding for like 5 minutes, sometimes almost an hour. As kids, we thought it was epic how long we could stay hidden. Mom and Dad would make it fun by keeping score. Whoever hid the best that week got to pick what we had for dinner on Friday night, and they'd hype it up beforehand like, "I think someone's coming over later, so be ready for the game." We'd be so excited. Sometimes the doorbell game would happen like 2-3 times in a week. Other times we wouldn't play for months. There was no pattern to it that I could tell. I remember one summer when I was about 9, we played almost every day for 2 weeks straight. That was the summer Santiago got so good at hiding that Mom joked he could disappear into thin air. The thing is, we were never allowed to talk about the doorbell game with anyone outside our family. Mom was super serious about this. She'd say, "What happens in the doorbell game stays in the doorbell game," and we'd all have to pinky promise. I thought it was just part of the game, like a secret club thing that made it extra special. Sometimes when we were hiding, I'd hear muffled voices at the door. Men's voices usually. They always sounded kind of angry, or frustrated maybe. As a kid, I thought they were just other people who wanted to play too, but weren't allowed in our special family game. Sometimes they'd knock for a really long time before giving up. There was this one time when I was about 10 that stands out. We were hiding for so long, like way past my bedtime. The guy at the door kept knocking and saying, "I know you're in there." He knocked for what felt like forever. I started getting scared and whispered to Mom that I wanted to stop playing. She just squeezed my hand really hard and put her finger to her lips. Her eyes looked different than they usually did during the game. She wasn't smiling. When I turned 13, I started thinking the game was kinda childish. One day the doorbell rang and Mom yelled, "Doorbell game!" And I just groaned and said I was too old for this. My dad literally dragged me off the couch and shoved me into the hallway closet, hissing that I was ruining everything. That was the first time I thought maybe this wasn't just a fun family tradition. By high school, the doorbell game happened less frequently. Our house was quieter in general. I noticed my parents whispering a lot, and there were all these envelopes with red stamps on them piling up on the counter. I asked Santiago about it, but he just shrugged it off. He was always better at the doorbell game than me anyway. When I was 17, I finally figured it out. I was homesick from school, and my parents didn't know. The doorbell rang, and out of habit, I started to get up to hide. But then I realized I was alone in the house. I looked through the peephole and saw a man in a button-up shirt holding a clipboard and some papers. Something made me decide to answer. He seemed surprised when I opened the door. Asked if my parents were home. I said no. He handed me an envelope and said it was very important that they get it. After he left, I'm not proud of this, but I opened it. It was some kind of legal document about our house being foreclosed. That night, I confronted my parents. Asked them point blank if the doorbell game was actually just them hiding from bill collectors. They got super quiet. Then Mom started crying. Dad admitted that yes, they'd been in serious debt since I was about 6. The doorbell game started as a panicked reaction one day when debt collectors showed up, and then they just kept it going. For years. They turned their financial problems into a literal game for us kids, a game with points and rewards and secrecy. All those men at the door weren't playing along. They were people trying to serve papers or collect debts or repossess stuff, and we thought it was fun.